Good morning, and today we're going to go through a quick grammar review. If there is more in-depth grammar that you would like to see, please check out my other videos on this channel. But today we're going to start off with the idea of sentence completion. Well, what is a sentence completion? You look at what the opposite is, a sentence fragment. A fragment is a group of words that does not express a complete thought. Now, since it is part of a sentence, it should not be allowed to stand by itself. Some examples of sentence fragments would be leaving her team at a time when we needed her, because his car was in the shop, which is why we don't care, and awkwardly ran around the corner. You'll notice these sentences are missing subjects. We don't exactly know where the person is or what the person is that is doing these objects and these verbs. So what does a complete sentence need? Well, it needs a subject, it needs a verb, and it needs to express a complete thought. Now, sentence completion does not have to be long. So long as you meet those containings of a subject, a verb, and a complete thought, you're good. You could just say, Sally waited. John ran home. Then we ate dinner. And those are complete sentences. They all have subjects, they all have verbs, and they all express a complete thought. The next fragment sentence that we'll look at is the phrase fragment. Now, a phrase is a group of words acting as a single part of a speech and not containing a verb in its subject. Phrases are only part of a sentence and cannot stand alone. So you might ask, what's missing? Well, a story with deep thoughts and emotions, perhaps a record of achievements beginning when you were first hired, and with the ultimate effect of advertising to sell products. You'll probably notice here we have phrases without verbs sometimes and always without a subject. For example, a story with deep thoughts and emotions, we don't know whose story this is and we're missing a verb. A record of achievements beginning when you were first hired, again, it's great, but I don't have a subject and I don't have a verb. And with the ultimate effect of advertising to sell products, I don't know whose ultimate effect it is, I don't have a subject, and once again, I don't have a verb. Our next fragment we'll be looking at is a subordinate clause. Now, some phrases become fragments because they begin with a subordinate clause that has been separated from the complete sentence. Subordinate clauses do three things. Subordinate clauses will join two sentences together, or they'll make one sentence dependent upon the other to form that complete thought. And subordinate clauses can also indicate logical relationships. Some of your subordinating conjunctions that you might see might be the words since, because, and so that. They show cause and effect, so you have one independent clause with one dependent clause. Although, even though, whereas, though, and while show comparisons and contrasts, so your subordinating conjunctions have some sense of comparison. How, however, where, and wherever show a place and a manner. You likely already have a complete thought, but you're adding a subordinating conjunction, a dependent phrase, in order to show where. If, whether, and unless show possibility and conditions. So again, you probably have a complete thought, but your subordinating conjunction is giving a condition to it. And you might show relations with the words that, which, or who. And finally, when you show time, your subordinate conjunctions might be after, as, before, since, when, whenever, while, and until. So how do we fix all of these subordinating conjunctions? Well, you need to make sure your sentences have a subject, a verb, and express a complete thought. Don't start with the subordinate conjunction. Now, finding subordinate conjunctions are tricky, but remember, they're dependent. They cannot stand alone as a sentence themselves. Now, a complete sentence usually answers the basic questions who and what. A more complex sentence would also tell you when, why, where, and or how. Our next type of sentence structure would be run-on sentences. A run-on happens when a comma is used between two complete sentences, and run-ons are very common in writing and sometimes can be difficult to spot. He enjoys walking along the beach. He goes for picnics quite often. I see two subjects, see two verbs, I see two complete thoughts. Therefore, this is a run-on sentence. My favorite type of pizza is buffalo chicken. It is a little spicy. Again, two complete sentences, two complete with subjects, two complete verbs, two complete thoughts. My favorite type of pizza is buffalo chicken. And the second sentence, it is a little spicy. They weren't dangerous criminals, they were detectives in disguise. Again, I've got two subjects, two verbs, and two complete thoughts here. They weren't dangerous criminals, and they were detectives in disguise are two complete thoughts. Now, run-on sentences are easily fixed by separating the sentences or combining them with a conjunction or perhaps even a semicolon. The complete sentences themselves will help guide whether to separate the sentences or to join them. Now, sometimes separating sentences cause the writing to sound choppy and awkward. However, sometimes combining the sentences causes confusion and a loss of coherence. So sometimes it's better to have choppy ideas than to lose coherence completely. Now, you have a lot of coordinating conjunctions that are quite common, but the most common coordinating conjunctions would be your fanboys: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Now, when you use a coordinating conjunction like this, you must use a comma. When you combine sentences using these conjunctions or subordinating conjunctions, you might use a semicolon or a period to break the two sentences up. For example, I didn't know which restaurant to choose. I was too hungry to decide. Well, you might want to use a coordinating conjunction. I didn't know which restaurant to choose because I was too hungry to decide. And perhaps one of our fanboys in which you might use a comma. I didn't know which restaurant to choose, comma, and I was too hungry to decide. Now, it's important to remember that run-on sentences are easy to fix, but they can also be made worse by simply just adding a comma. Adding a comma without a coordinating conjunction creates a comma splice, which is another grammatical error. Again, fix a run-on by either breaking the two sentences up by just simply putting in a period or a semicolon, or you should add a conjunction, either a coordinate or a subordinate. And remember, with your coordinating conjunctions, please use a comma. Some sentences are more complex and contain more than one idea. Now, these ideas can be equal or they might be unequal in rank. Now, the ideas that are equal in rank are called coordinates. These ideas are independent and they can actually stand alone from one another. Ideas that are unequal in rank are called subordinate. The subordinate clause is dependent. This is not a sentence. It cannot stand alone. Now, coordinate clauses are connected using connecting words, and, but, also, either, and they express different relationships. The most common relationships expressed are an addition, maybe some sort of comparing or contrasting, somebody making a choice, and the result, the effect. For example, an addition might be Mary ate lunch and she went to the park. We have two completely equal different thoughts here. Mary ate lunch, but she did not go to the park. Again, two completely ideal thoughts, two complete sentences using a coordinating conjunction. Mary neither ate lunch nor went to the park. This one shows a choice, and again, two complete thoughts. Mary ate lunch. Consequently, she went to the park. Again, we're showing two complete thoughts here, this time as a result. What did she do after lunch? Next, we have coordinating clauses. Now, great writers vary their sentences and choose connectives meticulously. Now, when you're writing, be sure to choose the best connective that will express the relationship between clauses clearly. For example, it's not really clear when you say Mary ate lunch. Besides, she went to the park. We don't really see how those two tie together. What becomes more clear is when you say Mary ate lunch and moreover she went to the park. It sounds like she ate lunch in order to try and get to go to the park. Maybe it's nearby. But the most clear that you would have in this coordination would be Mary ate lunch, then she went to the park. It sounds like first she did this and then she did this. That makes them equal and therefore a coordinating clause. Next, we have the subordinate clauses. Again, subordinate clauses cannot stand alone. Subordinate clauses make a sentence more complex by adding information, but they can also create confusion if you're not careful. Sometimes subordinate clauses cause information overload. For example, it is too much in one sentence if you say, Jack, who was a great cook, started making a vegan dinner because he was vegan, but was interrupted by Sally, who was his overly clingy girlfriend, calling on the phone. Jack started making a vegan dinner but was interrupted by Sally, who was his over-clingy girlfriend, calling on the phone, is a little bit better. So how do we make these subordinating clauses more clear? You want to use adverbs because subordinate clauses usually act as adverbs, meaning the entire clause modifies either a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. A subordinate adverb clause is going to answer one of the following questions: how, where, when, or why. Common relationships shown between subordinating adverb clauses are the time, the cause or reason, the purpose or result, and the condition. For example, they ran down the street because it was too cold. Well, you can ask the question, well, why did they run down the street? That would show the subordinating adverb clause, because it was too cold. Now, a subordinate adjective clause is a clause that acts as an adjective. It's supposed to modify a noun. A subordinating adjective clause will begin with a relative pronoun, such as who, whom, whose, that, or which, but it can also have a relative adverb, when, where, or why. The clause will usually answer one of the following questions: how many, which one, or what kind. Remember, it's an adjective. It is going to modify a noun. You have a noun, well, how many of that noun? Which one of those nouns? What kind of noun? For example, Aristotle, who is a Greek philosopher, wrote the Poetics, which is widely accepted in teaching fundamental performance art. Now, next we'll look at faulty coordination. We've been talking about coordination and subordination. Let's see if we can correct faulty coordination because it can be tricky. So you should carefully read your sentences to decide if any ideas are of unequal rank. And then make an idea subordinate by rewriting it as a subordinate clause, a modifying phrase, or even in a positive. So when we look at the ideas of clear references, how do I make my sentences clearer? You might use an antecedent, the word to which a pronoun refers to. Now, a pronoun must clearly refer to the right antecedent. Otherwise, you're going to make an unclear reference. Now, references can be ambiguous, general, or weak, and none of these are good. For example, she told them to stop, but they didn't listen. Well, who told who to stop? Who is this she? And who are they? That is unclear. Be careful using your antecedents. I need to have a reference before I can use a pronoun. What will be clearer would be Susie told her brothers to stop, but they didn't listen. Now I know who told who to stop. I know who is she and who are they. Now, an ambiguous reference occurs when a pronoun refers confusingly to two antecedents, so the reader does not know at once which antecedent is meant. Basically, there are two antecedents, and the pronoun could be referring to either. For example, you might say, Jackie asked Jenny to borrow her pen because she thought it was a lucky pen. Well, it's ambiguous. Did Jackie or did Jenny think the pen was lucky? We're unsure. Now, a general reference occurs when a pronoun refers confusingly to a general idea that is only vaguely expressed. For example, while on vacation, the family hiked, went to an amusement park, and raced go-karts. It was a lot of fun. Well, we're unsure, it's unclear what exactly was a lot of fun. Was it the entire vacation? Or was it just the hiking, or just the park, or just the go-karts? What would make this general reference more clear would be if you stated, while on vacation, the family went to an amusement park and raced go-karts. These activities were a lot of fun. Now, a weak reference occurs when the antecedent has not been expressed, but exists only in the writer's mind. Basically, when you get so wrapped up that you forget to tell the reader who or what you're referring to. Now, the antecedent of a pronoun should be a noun, but sometimes these antecedents are hidden in their adverbs or modifiers. For example, TJ was a superstitious person. One of these is not opening an umbrella inside the house. Wait, what is one? The writer meant the superstitions was one of them, but they forgot to say it. Thank you so much for stopping by for this quick grammar review. Again, if you're looking for more grammar, please go ahead and check out the other videos on my channel. If there's more grammar that you would like me to review, please leave a comment down below and let me know what more I can do. And as always, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed.